This is the very first card of the Major Arcana, the beginning of the journey, the very first step of a process, because we can look at the whole sequence of cards, and there is a particular logic behind why every one of them follows the previous, and they have numbers in the Rider-Waite, in the classic decks. In the Mythic Tarot, they're not numbered, but in the usual numbered cards, the Fool is given 0. Not 1, but 0. This is a very interesting youngster character, the Fool, who is usually portrayed as a young boy, a teenager, or even younger than a teenager, who is just about to go on a journey. He's starting in a new direction, and that's an adventure for that boy. He's not particularly careful about where he's going and what he's doing. It's a free walk, a free-spirited, adventurous endeavor, and a bit risky as well. So it becomes the symbol of an initial impulse towards something unknown and something new. In the Mythic Tarot, this is Dionysus, the god of wine. It's like a party god, in my view. The one that they call him the twice born. Here is the first story about one of the many children of Zeus, the king of the gods, who is so famous about having all sorts of different connections with goddesses, nymphs, mortal women, and many children born out of these relationships. It wasn't an easy birth. That's the interesting thing about the Fool. And here we have this madness intertwined in the character, because the second time Dionysus was born, he was thrown out in the woods, and he was like a roaming around spirit that was not integrated in the society of the gods, but was kind of an exile. The Fool is a reckless character. Sometimes he's portrayed as a joker, even as a trickster, but not as much as the following card of the Magician. Here we're just getting an initial idea of that. It's, to me, in astrology, related to the Ascendant, not to any one of the planets particularly, even though in some places you would read that this is Uranus, the planet Uranus. I don't quite agree with that, because to me Uranus is a much more mature archetype, a societal planet, one that's also rebellious and reckless and takes risks and so on, but not in the same way as the Fool takes a risk. He only has one companion in the small dog that's following him. There are no groups of friends or associates or anything like this. I can see where the Uranian connection is coming from, but what I personally identify here is the Ascendant being the starting point of the birth chart, and how when we express our Ascendant signs, this is something natural, instinctive, straightforward. There is no thinking about it. There is no reason about it. It's just an internal impulse of behaving in a certain way. I have noticed how awkward it is to express your Ascendant, especially when you're young, and we grow into our Ascendants as we grow older. And at the same time, my feeling is that we always have the right Ascendant, and there is always something very individualistic coded into us through that Ascendant, which is expressing itself so naturally, also so that we cannot prevent it with too much reason and too much thinking. We have to let that thing go and follow its path, even when sometimes it puts us into situations when we feel like we're not presenting ourselves in the best light, or we may even be putting ourselves in danger. Who knows? Of course, it all depends on the chart, whether the Ascendant is more similar to the predominant energies in the chart, or whether it's a bit of an outsider, and it's kind of making you behave in a way which is not really in accordance to what you feel you are inside. But in any case, it's the right energy of initial meeting with the world. And that's what the Fool is doing in all of the decks. The first step of going out in the world and seeing what awaits us there, and just reacting to it and projecting our own Ascendant image to others. In the modern playing cards, the playing cards are, they derive themselves from the Tarot. So the Tarot actually turned out to be not as old as I expected before I started studying about it. It seems like the Tarot is about 400-500 years old and dates back from the Middle Ages. But a little later, people started developing the modern playing cards, and in them, the Fool is the only Major Arcana card which survived and is still part of the playing cards as the Joker. This interchangeability is so much part of the character of the god Dionysus, who is a wild god, and also he's connected to theater. Here I see very much the connection to the Ascendant, going back to the Ascendant, because they say your Ascendant is a mask, kind of a mask that you wear instinctively on your face when you get out. And people think about you, different things. They perceive you, they have these impressions about you. They even start identifying themselves with what energy your Ascendant is expressing out, because it's got this ability to get under the skin of others to make that initial impression. It's extremely active as an energy that we express out into the world and affect others. So yeah, it is the downing point of the chart, the very beginning of the chart, and it actually orders the chart. When we have the point of the Ascendant, if we have our time of birth and we are able to calculate the Ascendant, we can calculate automatically the Descendant, the IC, and the MC, which are kind of framing the chart. The four angles are the expression of the basic individuality, what's there in the beginning as a seed, and the Fool is the same thing. What's there in the beginning as a seed, still undeveloped, still new, still a child, which needs to go through many trials and tribulations in the following cards to actually understand what its nature is about and how to adjust to the world.